Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It is Wednesday, the 17th of September, 12:30 p.m., and we're going to talk about crime and punishment, but not in the Dostoevsky type of way or Kafka either. Just the shit state of affairs in the United States as far as prosecuting lawbreakers and major criminals as well. Those of you who did not see the congressional hearing, which is actually a senatorial committee, grilling Kash Patel yesterday for stupid reasons over and above the usual stupid reasons. And can we get a drug and alcohol test on our senators before they go into hearings? That would be nice and would probably shorten these things by about 99%. The takeaway should be for this that every average person out there should say, why in the world would you be asking questions about a major political assassination while the investigation is ongoing? What, so you can leak it directly through the hearings so that whoever else is involved can also get away, so that the criminals involved will know where you are in the investigation? It is some of the stupidest shit that I have ever seen, but it's what I expect out of the Senate and honestly out of the DOJ and FBI anymore. So let's just take everything with a grain of salt when we're looking at this in the future. When you go to wonder what's happening, A, the Department of Justice is not under control of the Trump administration by a long shot, and you have seen that in the lack of efficiency in the Attorney General's office as far as prosecuting any number of cases that should have been prosecuted, and even cases that they could have prosecuted easily because the path was already blazed for them during the autocratic regime that existed before them. You know, they prosecuted a lot of people in the Biden administration, which you didn't think you'd be able to do, but they made it happen, right? The evil empire definitely knows how to get itself through paperwork, which obviously the Trump regime has not been able to figure out. That being said, same thing in Patel's office. He probably has what, 30 to 40% control. He had all those mid-level guys that he should have been allowed to fire, which is what Schiff was talking about. Schiff needs to keep those guys there because they're the ones that kept him alive when he lied to Congress about having all this documentation that would convict President Trump on the Russiagate thing. Where is the prosecution for that, right? We're not even going to have to worry about it. Where's any of the prosecutions for any of the people that were involved in any bad things in the last 4 years? They don't exist. And that is the problem. The attorney general's offices in general are flaccid as a 900-year-old man's dick, for lack of a better term. I think that was what they were telling me to write down here. I got to check my notes. So, what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do when you have a situation where people are out there fighting with the police, fighting with the ICE units, lying that they were the shooters in a political assassination? What are you going to do with all these assholes, right? You have to say to yourself, let's talk about something which is this, which cuts right to the survival of the republic: political violence and the failure or refusal of the prosecutors to confront it with the seriousness it demands. At the state level, when they do it, I would say that they are all complicit in the operation themselves and should be investigated. That'll wake some people up. But, I'm just sitting here in front of whatever in this multi-million-dollar soundstage yelling at a camera. The assassination of Charlie Kirk, the rise of the trans-terrorism organizations, and the violent campaigns carried out by Antifa and Black Lives Matter and any number of other Weather Underground-esque Red Army faction type organizations, which will be operating very soon, including factions operating below the waterline with the Muslim Brotherhood, have revealed a deep fracture in American civic life. These are not random crimes. These are deliberate attacks on the foundations of the United States, the goal of which is to overthrow the standing government of the United States. When you talk to any of these people, it's exactly what they say. They don't just want somebody in Congress. They want it all gone and have a Marxist Leninist state put in its place. We are not playing around anymore, people. You have to get it together. You have to talk to whoever you have to talk to and vote for whoever you have to vote for. And here's the question: will our justice system respond with strength, or will it continue the pattern of weakness we saw during the Biden years? And that was weakness through strength, prosecuting somebody who said something on television like the British do, right? But allowing millions and millions of people to flood into the country. When prosecutors let these mobs run wild, they burn the cities, assault the police officers, assault the federal agents, murder political pundits, attempted murder other people, kill a guy, and kill business owners with no serious consequences, then we have a problem here. During the Biden administration, we saw it again and again. The federal courthouses were attacked. ICE agents were assaulted. Whole precincts were set on fire. And what did the prosecutors do? They either looked the other way or they offered sweetheart deals. They ROR'd them. They gave them a date to show up and they gave them a $50 fine. It was bullshit. That double standard, punishing some, January 6 people, right? Punishing some, excusing others, destroyed public confidence in the Department of Justice. And the result was a culture of impunity. The message was clear. If your violence serves the right political cause, meaning you're wearing black or red, you can go to town and you will walk. You will not even get detained, right? Destroy cities, destroy millions of dollars worth of other people's work. You're out there telling me that you're trying to push the money around to all the working people while you're destroying the places where they have to work. Don't kid yourselves, man. Everybody knows what socialism is, right? And once the people believe that, the extremism escalates, which we have talked about for quite some time, and how we got to the level of violence which we are going to see coming up. So what's the answer? You've got to start getting in there. You have to make convictions, and they have to be maximum convictions. All right? Just like they did with the January 6 people. No half measures, no wrist slaps, no half stepping, if you remember the 80s. In cases of political assassination and acts of terrorism at home, prosecutors must pursue the heaviest charges available: conspiracy, sedition, accessory to murder, material support of terrorism. These are the terms you're going to hear. I don't want to hear obstruction of justice anymore, right? Because three things are at stake here. First, we have no deterrence. We need to build up deterrence in the law again. We have to send a message that political violence will be met with overwhelming consequences, which Biden did a good job of against enemies of his state. Second, trust. Americans have to believe their government is willing to defend them from violent extremists, no matter what the ideology. And third, you got to have the equality before the law. If there's a right-wing gunman, or a left-wing rioter, the standard must be the same. Otherwise, justice itself becomes partisan, okay? But here's where it gets even more dangerous. We have this new class which sort of is in there trying to get itself in loopholes in the law, and these are enablers. These are the people who may not fire the shot, but they make the violence possible. They may not be actually in the particular conspiracy, but they are aware something is occurring and they know what their job would be if they knew what was happening. So look at the activists who physically block ICE arrests, okay? Sometimes even assaulting the agents. We had the thing where they towed their cars, right? Bomb the cars, this, that, and the other thing. Very few prosecutions come from that. That's lawlessness feeding more lawlessness. And they'll say, oh, we can't because it's a local thing. They're attacking federal agents, put them in the federal courthouse, and do them on federal time. It's more punishment than it would be locally. These things were done in the past when federal agents were brought in to take care of things during the Civil Rights Administration's issues, okay? So don't think that we're coming up with some new Nazi thing that has never been done before. If you recall, at one point, right, The United States Airborne was brought in to make sure a bunch of little black kids could go to school. So why was everybody upset that the National Guard was brought into a city to stop crime? Get your shit together, okay? And now the most important one that I see is this George Zinn, okay? When those of you who don't know who this pedophile is, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Zinn was the old guy who says, I did it, and they all dogpile him. Not because he pulled the trigger, but to buy the real shooter time to escape. And this is what he has said. I did it knowing that if they would all concentrate on me, the shooter would get away. That's not just obstruction of justice. That's aiding and abetting political murder. He's up on an obstruction charge. He should be going down on something much stronger than that, because what has happened in the socialist universe of the internet, they are being told these kind of things. When you hear there's a shooter going on and you know they're there to kill right-wingers or civilians, make it hard, right? I did it, only if you're not going to have to get shot to death, right? Which is what this guy, because he's a real brave person. He knew he didn't have any guns on him. He made sure he was very clear, and then they could just put him down on the ground. He wasn't trying to get himself killed, right? And if he had, he would have been out suing, saying that police went off of the reservation again and shot this unarmed guy. Wrong. You have to start to build the narrative that we are not going to tolerate this kind of shit. All right. Zinn falsely confessed, like I said, because he wanted to buy that real shooter time to escape. So every time you see that now, and there will be more, you're going to have to realize that there are going to be more George Zinns out there. The thing you need to do is say, well, you know, George put a lot of people's lives at risk, because let's say they opened up because he was near the crowd. Let's say these cops just opened up because they were trigger happy and 5 or 6 other people got shot and George lived. And he'd say, oh, I wasn't the shooter. I just said something because I'm an asshole. Are people supposed to say, well, you know, he is an asshole, we'll just let him, you know, we'll let him walk on this? Absolutely not. The guy is a political operative. He is part of an overall organization committed to terrorism and committed to overthrowing the government of the United States. You know, like you say, I can't say it any more than we've said it in the past. There is a war going on, and if you don't want to believe it, that's not my fault. The other team has decided that violence is the only way to go, because they realize that they have to scare half of their own members into voting a certain way, because they know they can't do anything with the Republicans or the MAGA people, let's put it that way. Thune and all those other jerk-off traitors, they're going to do what they want to do. However, they are going to scare the other half of the Democrats into voting their way or not voting at all, and they'll just fill in the blanks, right? That has to be done. They have to now seize that control. It's very much a Viet Cong situation for them now, if you understood what the Viet Cong were really up to. All right. So, and we're also seeing the same kind of behavior here going through with this trans terrorism. Now, as we had pointed out a while ago, and they just went out and jacked these guys up, these transsexual terrorism shooting camps and this, that, and the other thing. It ties into the greater psychological issue that we've did the video on and the paper on, which is the cycle that allows these people to be manipulated into killers very easily. You can go back and look at it. As we called it, identify as a shooter. Okay. This is very problematic. They have had 10-year, let's say, yeah, end of Clinton, all of Obama, and all of Biden. Totally unfettered and still operating during Trump 1, because Trump 1 wasn't getting intelligence information back from the FBI, because the FBI was busy spying on him because they thought he was a dupe of the Russians, theoretically, right? When people tell you, oh, Trump should have known this, Trump should have known that in his first time, You have to realize the FBI had him classified as an operative of the Soviet Union, or the Russians, I'm sorry, the Russians, the entire time he was in office. The entire time he was in office, he wasn't being given completely sensitive material because somehow they had been able to make it that they were the ultimate arbiter of truth. And therefore, the president didn't deserve to know how fucked up things were. And that is the truth of that situation, which is why I don't understand why somebody doesn't have the jails in Cuba filled up with FBI agents right now. That's what they did. They established the ability to form an intelligence coup against the standing president of the United States. Go talk to any lawyer anywhere. That's what went on. Okay. Now we're fighting back because we have these organizations. As I said, do yourself a favor, go look at any book or any good documentary on the Weather Underground or the Red Army faction, Bader Meinhof, they used to call them. That's what you're fighting now. And you're also involved with this self-licking ice cream cone of divergent groups that all want to overthrow the government, Muslim Brotherhood, things like that. Why, that's why they're out there. There's a lot of problems that we have to address so that way your kids can go to the park down the street here and not have somebody run a car through them all just to do it because they know killing children breaks the will of the populace, which is why the Palestinians always show that same dead kid. He's died 72 times already, right? So, to be clear, charging someone like Zinn only with obstruction is a failure. Sorry, we got off the path there. It tells the world that helping an assassin escape is no different than shredding documents in a white-collar case, which is absurd. It's weakness, and weakness breeds more violence. They're going with the lesser charge because they don't think they can convict on the bigger charge. Any of you who have been out there in the world, prosecutors usually hit you with some stupid ass charge, which they know would put you in jail for 1,000,000 years to try to get you to plead to a lesser one. In this case, in this climate, in the right place, especially in a federal court, they would be able to get these 15 years. They need to secure sentences for these guys that are more than 3 months in jail. They need to give them 5 to 10 to 15 years in jail with no possibility of parole. You want to be a terrorist? This is what you're going to get. We let murderers out faster than we leave out, some of those Jan 6 guys. So are you saying, what are you really saying out there? Anyway, the justice system can only be restored by strength and resolve. We'll wrap this up. Prosecutors must treat political murder, these trans terrorism organizations, Muslim Brotherhood organizations, and any other domestic terror as existential threats, including now that you have the Venezuelan cartels, El Tren de Agua, all that bullshit. That means aggressive charging decisions. That means maximum sentences. That means refusing to let ideology dictate the outcome of cases. Because if mobs and assassins are allowed to dictate the limits of American politics, then the republic is already lost. If you don't have this together now, how do you intend to deal with the cartels in Mexico? Okay? They laugh at our jail system, right? They should honestly be up on capital crimes because they aren't drug dealers, they are murderers. Fentanyl murders people. So they should be up for 100,000 plus cases of murder. All right? But that isn't happening because too many people are making money in the drug business on both sides of the fence. It's disgusting, especially. I understand some of the other ones, but this fentanyl, same with heroin. Never understood it. Dirty fucking drug, right? Fentanyl, even worse. So that's where we have to go. You have to say, if you agree it's time for the prosecutors to step up and stop treating political violence as another case, like, share, subscribe, whatever you want to do. And we will continue to supply you with different content Every couple of days, I think we're on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, Substack, and then here on our home channel, www.southfloridaconservative.com. You can sign up for the newsletter because some of these we've been running haven't made it onto the other sites. And that's about it for today. I hope you all have a good, whatever it is, Tuesday, Wednesday, and talk to you later.